everyone, my name is Miranda, and today I am here to discuss episode 3 of Coffin Run on Dimension 20, and honestly, with every single episode, this show gets better and better. I never, ever, ever want it to end, and I still don't know how many episodes it's going to be, but I'm assuming more than 4, since next episode would be 4, and normally they're like, join us for the conclusion of Coffin Run, you know, or something like that, and they didn't say that this time, so I'm really hoping we get like at least 6 or 8 episodes. I think Mice and Murder was quite a few, right? Like that was like 9 or 10, so I would be so happy if we could get 9 or 10 episodes out of this because I really love it. Jasmine as a DM is just so amazing. Like, I had not heard of her before she was announced as a DM, but I will watch any and everything she is in now because she is so funny and so giving with her players and is so quick to go along with what they're saying. Her like improv is amazing with how she can just roll with things, and the characters she creates are honestly amazing. Like, I told you last episode that I love Dimitri, and you could not rip him from me if you tried, and his little cute little voice. And then this episode she followed up with introducing Florina, who I think we all can agree is now our collective adopted daughter, because I just love her so much, and her relationship with all of them, how she's like fawning over May. I know that like May cast a spell, but still how she was fawning after May, how she is basically the granddaughter of Sasha now, and of course how she has this antagonistic relationship with Wetzel. I think is so adorable, especially considering Wetzel is the one that gave her the instruction for how to climb aboard the carriage and sneak in to continue with them, even though he didn't really seem to like her. I think that it was funny when she showed up and she was like, I have made it, you could not stop me, and she was still like being so mean to him and calling him a loser, and he's like, I'm the one to help you. She's like, yeah, thanks for that, but still, you are no good. I think she was so cute and adorable, and yeah, just like a kid. Like, it's so realistic, especially for like how she was just reading Wetzel to like absolute shreds, like filth, tearing him apart, and then she's like, oh, we're hat twins, and he was like, what? Like, just like the whiplash of the conversation I feel like is so accurate to like what I would do as a kid, but also like talking to kids nowadays, where you're just like, oh gosh, it's like that thing where they're like 8th graders will make fun of you but in an accurate way. So like you're like, oh gosh, this is really something I can't hide about myself. So I love her. I'm so glad she's coming on the adventure now, although I am very worried since she is just a human, of course, and she doesn't have the powers that Sasha and Wetzel have to survive, and especially because the preview for next episode ended with something happening and then Izzy in her own voice, because she's very, very good about keeping Sasha's voice when she's in character, being like, no, shut up, shut up. So I feel like Florina's probably gonna get hurt or killed by the werewolves. I don't know if, I mean, I guess it's up to the dice, right? I was like, I don't think Jasmine will be mean enough to kill Florina, but it's up to the dice completely. So I'm really, really nervous about that, but I think she's a really fun addition, and I just love her, and her fighting Dimitri and finding the letter for Zeta was so, I just love her so much. This episode was really, really cool too, because it got more of a move on to where we're trying to get to. So they're trying to get Dracula back to his ancestral home in his castle. I feel like they all still have kind of iffy kind of relationships with him, right? Although I will say what was interesting for me was that May and Sasha both got letters this episode, and unlike Wetzel's letter, which again, Wetzel's letter wasn't intended for him, but Dracula did, again, much like Florina, drag Wetzel to filth. And it caused a lot of conflict within Wetzel of, he's kind of like, he reminds me of Guillermo in a sense of they're on the same journey, not personality-wise, but from what we do in the shadows of like, you've been serving this person and the great promise is that they will turn you into a vampire. So you've gone through all the torment and the torture, remembering that this is what it's going to be like at the end, and now you're finding out that that's probably not going to happen. And I am curious, like, if other people can turn people into vampires, or if it has to be Dracula. I don't know, because they did talk to that vampire Keith who was working on the bridge, and he was like, this is how we find recruits, but I guess that doesn't necessarily mean that he turns them. Maybe he like brings them to Dracula, because if I'm Wetzel, I would be like, hey Squinch, can you just turn me? Hey May, can you? I feel like May would be super like down for turning him. So I'm curious to find out more about that. But I do think it's interesting that Sasha and May's letter, Sasha was for him, so I mean obviously it's not going to be like, hey, you suck. But it was very, very sweet and kind of very considerate and not like the Dracula we had come to know. And May's also was not for her. It was for another wife of Dracula's. But again, very sweet. Very like, you know, like I'm not in love with you guys, but that's because like my true love, like I just can't love anymore. Like I don't have that ability, but I care for you guys deeply. And just the way he talked about May was very respectful compared to how he had talked about her in the letter that Wetzel got. So it just makes me curious because after the last couple episodes I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be sad if Dracula dies, but now after this one I'm like, okay, well maybe he does really care for some of them, and you know, maybe there is more to him than meets the eye of just like either bad and awful or good, and like he's the leader and he deals with a lot of stuff and he seems to really know himself and know that like, you know, he's a undead vampire for hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years, and how that changes you and how that affects you. So now I'm kind of like, I don't know how to feel about him. I guess much like Wetzel, I'm kind of like, do we want to save him? Do we not want? I don't know anymore. I did really love May's letter, and that is, again, proves, I think, why I love Erika Ishii so much. I mean, they literally had tears sobbing down their face. Like, it was just so moving the way they read the letter and how it affected them, because that's how, like, they embodied May. That's how May would take that letter right there. And I also love getting to meet the other wife. She was really sweet, and I really thought that, like, when they first were like, oh, it's one of the other wives, I thought May was going to be competitive with her and be like, you know, like, you don't want to compete with them, but I love that, like, they were best friends. Like, they really cared for each other, and May had inspired her to go out and find her own dreams, and I think that was really touching for May of, like, maybe my dreams didn't come true, but my dream can change, and I can inspire and help other people to go out and live their own dreams, and that's kind of its own reward and success in itself, which was really sweet. Izzy was also really moved by her letter, you could tell. I think just in terms of who Sasha is, it's really nice to have that acknowledgement of, I see you and I'm inspired by you, and it's kind of like an older father figure or an older just mentor who's kind of like, I respect what you're doing, and like it brings me inspiration to hear your successes, and I think that was also really sweet. So that's where I'm kind of like, Dracula, what you do, daddy? And Squinch still hasn't gotten his letter. I mean, technically he got a letter in the beginning, but he did eat it. I do love that we're saving him for the end because he's just so like... Oh, and I do have to mention, I thought it was so sweet when Izzy got her letter, and all the letters have like a little section that they don't have to choose to read out loud. Wetzel did, Carlos did afterwards, which I loved. And then we don't know if Erika or Izzy did because they didn't say one way or another. But I thought it was so sweet because Zach was right next to Izzy, and when she got the letter, he was like, he closed his eyes and like looked down for the longest time to be like, I'm not looking. I just thought that was really sweet and cute. The other thing too that we've got more of a mention in this episode is the werewolves. That's what the next episode will be about, is fighting werewolves, which will be so cool. I think the more that like they go and figure out, like, you know, the more they're lying to people and hiding that Dracula has half his face on and all that stuff, like, it shows more of how much Dracula really runs this place and how integral he is. Like, the werewolves are, like, not scared of him, but, like, will stay away because he's not there. So, obviously, now that he's not there and coming back, like, they've kind of had run of the roost, and I feel like them being attacked by seemingly millions, Jasmine did say millions of werewolves, is not gonna go well for them in the next one, but I'm very, very excited to see, especially, like I said, I want to see more of their abilities. And I thought it was really cool because it felt like, I feel like normally you only get this in like long campaigns, but I like the move of like getting these quicker, of Izzy, Erika, Squinch too, and I think everyone, but I don't remember Wetzel getting something, but I could be wrong. They all got new abilities and new powers and stuff. Like, Izzy getting the bracelet was really, really cool, and I love that Jasmine actually like, gave it to her. She can, what is it again now? Is it basically a resurrection spell, I would assume, because she can bring back the dead. And then May has cackle, which I think is so cool, and demonstrated a perfect cackle after she got it. So I'm just really excited because now I want to see more of their abilities in combat and exactly how they fight werewolves, what the different system for werewolves will be compared to vampires. Like I said before, I love the blood point system that Jasmine worked into this. She made it on her own, and I think it's friggin' amazing, of like they can get blood points since they don't take rest of the vampires, and they can use those for health points or spell slots, which I think is really cool because then it adds in a whole layer of like they gotta eat someone before they can really focus. But I'm really, really excited for the werewolf fight. I think it will be really cool just to see them all in combat. And even like Wetzel is like Bucky Barnes, and I feel like we have not unearthed the amount of stuff he can do. I'm worried about Florina, like I said, which I think is an understandable worry, but girl can seemingly hold her own, and I love her, and if anything happens to her, I will cry. So come back next week to see if I'm just sobbing for the next 10 minutes while I talk about episode 4. But yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. I like seeing them get to level up in a way, get new powers, get new abilities, and I'm excited to see how that's going to go down when we throw down with the werewolves. So if you have seen this episode, please feel free to leave your thoughts about it down below in the comments. Also make sure this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!